Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everybody's doing well out there today. If you've been watching this channel for a while where we're talking about self-hosting and Docker and things like that, you'll know that I like to use a couple of services regularly to help protect my self-hosted applications when I make them available online. And those two applications specifically are Nginx Proxy Manager as my reverse proxy to also handle things like SSL and routing and things like that. I also like to use Cloudflare to handle my DNS and also help prevent things like DDoS attacks, and it also helps obfuscate my IP address, things like that. So what we're going to do today is add Fail2Ban to our setup for a little extra security. But first, a quick message from today's video sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Linode, the largest independent cloud computing provider. If you don't want to, or can't for whatever reason, self-host applications the way we talk about on this channel, Linode provides virtual servers that make it easy and affordable for you to host anything in the cloud. You can set up any of the applications that they have available in their marketplace with just a few clicks, or you can set up your own Docker VPS and install basically whatever you'd like in a Docker container. They have load balancers and firewalls available to help keep your apps online and safe. If you run into any trouble getting set up, Linode comes with amazing 24/7 customer support by phone or ticket, along with hundreds of guides and tutorials to help you get started. Sign up today at linode.com/dbtech and get a $100 60-day credit on your new Linode account. Links are in the description. So, as I mentioned, I like to use Nginx Proxy Manager as my reverse proxy because I like to have the dashboard to log into. I like being able to very quickly and easily deploy subdomains and things like that for my self-hosting needs. And of course, I also like to use Cloudflare. I've been using Cloudflare for more than a decade now to help secure my hosting, whether it's using a third-party hosted service or while I'm self-hosting Docker containers and things like that. They've got a great amount of resources available to use even on their free tier. So again, like I mentioned, what we want to do today is actually add Fail2Ban to this setup. And the idea that we're going to kind of go with here is that Fail2Ban will monitor Nginx Proxy Manager logs for all of the different hosts that you have set up in Nginx Proxy Manager. And then we're going to add an actions file that will communicate with Cloudflare. And then as Fail2Ban is monitoring the logs of Nginx Proxy Manager, anytime it starts to see anything that's going wrong, specifically in this case, we're going to be monitoring 404 errors, as that's what a lot of hackers will try to use, or they will just start pinging a site or a service or whatever, trying to look for any kind of vulnerability. If they can find a specific file, they can usually figure a way to get in. But first, they've got to find that file, and very often that will result in a lot of 404 errors while they're doing that. So Fail2Ban in this case will monitor those 404 errors, and then will tell Cloudflare to ban that IP address. So I think with all of that being said, let's jump over and kind of take a look at what we're going to be doing here. So this is the portainer that I have set up for things like, you can see here, Fail2Ban, Nginx Proxy Manager, Guacamole, those sorts of things for remote access purposes. And basically up here at the top, you can see that we've got Fail2Ban Docker up here. I don't know why they added Pi, but they did. And in fact, if we come over here and click on the logs, we can see that there's a bunch of stuff in here, and what you're seeing that's blurred out is actually it going through its paces and saying, hey, don't forget, do not block this IP address. And I've specified my home's IP address so that I don't get accidentally banned from my own service for some reason. I actually had it happen. I had to go back and correct some things, but now I don't get banned from my own service. So so basically what we're looking at here is it says, hey, this guy or this IP address pulled up too many 404 errors, so we're going to ban him. And then below that, we've got another one where they found some 404s, but not enough to trip the little security thing there. So that user wasn't banned. That was a one-off. Sometimes that happens. A little further down, we've got another one, and then a little further down, we've got one. This is actually an IPv6 IP address, and then below that, we've got another IP address down here that also found a 404 error, but not enough to actually trip the system and get them banned. Now, if we jump over here to Cloudflare, here we can see that I've had this up and running for a few days. You can't see that, but I have had this up and running for a few days now. And here we can see that I have 182 items in my firewall rules that this Fail2Ban Docker container has communicated with Cloudflare to set up. So all of these that you can see here say Fail2Ban npm Docker. And then of course, all of these are blocked. And as I go through, you'll just see that this is repeated over and over and over again. Some of these are IPv4 addresses. Some of them are IPv6 addresses. So there's just a bunch of them in here, and they all say, hey, here's why they're on this list. All of these are coming from our Fail2Ban Docker image. So now that we can see that everything is up and running, let's kill it. Let's shut down that container. Let's delete all of the data out of it, and let's go ahead and set it back up so that we can kind of go through this process firsthand and see how this works. So now that we have everything cleaned up and ready to go, we can actually start with the process of installing Fail2Ban on our Docker system. So what I want to do is go over here to stacks. I'm going to add a stack. I'm going to paste that in there, and I'll do that. Oh, I have to clean this up just real quick. Here we are. We're taking a look at this Fail2Ban Docker image. This is Crazy Max's Fail2Ban. The container name, that's actually why that was there. I'm going to take that off of there like so. So Fail2Ban is the service. The image we're going to use is Crazy Max / Fail2Ban. The latest image of that. The container name will be Fail2Ban Docker. Our network mode, in this case, will need to be host. It needs to be able to look at all of the data happening on the actual hardware. So that's what it's going to do there using the host. It's going to look at all of the traffic across the system here in that regard. We're going to do netadmin and netraw for the capability additions there. Below that, we're going to have 3 volumes. One will be the actual Fail2Ban data config volume. One will be the var log auth.log file so that it can keep track of authorizations going on that way. And then we actually need to map wherever our logs are for Nginx Proxy Manager. So wherever you have Nginx Proxy Manager installed is where you need to map your, or where you need to map this particular volume. So if I actually come back to here and do an ls, here we can see that I've got actually a data and a let's encrypt. I know because I screwed this up that data and let's encrypt are the 2 volumes that Nginx Proxy Manager is using on my server. This actually should have been tucked away in a different folder, but I didn't, and I don't want to deal with it. So we're just going to use this. So I know that home/data is where I want to be here. So I'm actually just going to remove this. Just know that this is, again, where you would put, or wherever your data logs are for Nginx Proxy Manager is what you're going to put here. And then if I go ahead and do a cd into data, and then a cd into logs, cd into logs, there are all of the logs that are currently available on my Nginx Proxy Manager Docker container. So once we've got that, we're good to go as far as that's concerned. Restart always, absolutely, for security reasons, restart always. And then below that, we've got some environmental variables here. Time zone, go ahead and put in your time zone for me. And of course, that'll be, America/Denver. Oops, if I could spell Denver correctly. And then we've got some stuff for logging, some database stuff, all for Fail2Ban. You should probably change that. I don't think you want your database, your logs basically for how long Fail2Ban will go back and look. I'm actually going to change that to a year so that it has a long time to go back and look, or a bigger resources of things to look at to know whether or not to ban that sort of thing. So I'm going to change that. Basically below this, we've got an SMTP host. They've got extra S's in front of here for some reason. I don't know why. But basically this will be for your email host. That would probably be for most of us, smtp.gmail.com. Oops. 587 will be for TLS security for this. And then your host name, I just like to call this, like npm.local. And then your email address for your Gmail account, for your communications, for your Docker containers will go here next. Same thing, password for that account will go next. And then SMTP underscore TLS is yes, because we're going to use TLS encryption for communication to log into our Gmail account for sending notifications and that sort of thing. Once you've got all of this set up appropriately, all you got to do is scroll down, click on deploy the stack, and wait for it to come up. So here we can see that Fail2Ban is up and running. Well, it's starting anyway. So let's see what we've got going on in here. Warning, new database created. Great. So that's actually good to go. We're ready to move on to our next steps for this process. So what we'll do is we're actually going to go back into our SSH, back into our terminal, and then we're going to do like this. We're going to do a cd into Docker and ls, and now our Fail2Ban is back. So we're going to do a cd into Fail2Ban, and then cd into data. And here again, we've got action.d, db, filter.d, and jail.d. As we saw before, like I said, this container created all of those folders for us. So the first thing that we want to do is let's take a look at our jail.d folder here. So we're going to do a cd into jail, and there's nothing in there. So what we're going to do is create an npm-docker.local file here. So I'm going to do nano, and I'll paste that in. And this is so that it can communicate with Nginx Proxy Manager. And of course, there's nothing in here. So what I'm going to do is copy this. Of course, all of this will be available in the description down below. So there'll be a link. Jump over to my website. You can take a look at it there. There's just too much to put in the description for YouTube to not have a total meltdown. So we're going to paste this in here. And like I said, up here it says an npm docker for Nginx Proxy Manager, Docker enabled is true. We're going to ignore some IP addresses here. You might also want to add a couple of other addresses for the sake of keeping things simple. Primarily what you would want to add here, though, is whatever your home's IP address is, or the IP address of where you'll be accessing your server, whether it's from home or from work or from whatever. You can actually just put it, basically if you start at the end here, you're just going to add a space, and then, put in your IP address there, and then you should be good to go. So beyond that, we've got an action. Basically, this is going to call to the action.d folder that was in one of those previous folders that we saw. And we're going to specifically look for a file called Cloudflare-API v4. That's the file that it's going to look for. And that's what we're doing, is we're calling that right here. The chain is input. Below that, we've got some log paths. So this is going to be, like we saw earlier when I showed you all of the page that all of the different logs on there. Basically, we're mapping all of those. And the first one, it will just be the default host _ access. And then we've got some additional proxy host with an asterisk in here as for access and error. And here is basically what we're looking at in here. And so if you saw, there were, it was like proxy host asterisk. And that's kind of, this asterisk is meant to be a wildcard for anything that happens to be in here. So basically, whatever number this is, it would be, proxy host -- asterisk _ access.log, and proxy host asterisk _ error.log is what we saw in that. So let's do this. And I just kind of wanted to show that that's the purpose of that asterisk, is to be a wildcard so that it will look through all of the different proxy hosts in here. You could also add redirection hosts in there, but I don't really think that would be an issue since we're not really doing much with that. Okay, so that's what we're looking at for these last two lines is this asterisk _ access and asterisk _ error log files. The max retry, I've seen this, by default it was 3. I've seen people put it as low as 1. I think 2 is fine. You may want to play with that depending on your system, how much you're seeing in your logs, that sort of thing. I'm just going to leave mine for 2. The ban time, this line right here, is done in seconds. You could set it for 10 minutes or an hour. I've got mine set to -1. That's a permanent ban. I may change that at some point, but basically that's, if somebody comes here and screws up that badly, I don't want them back. I don't want them to have another chance easily without having to, switch their IP address. So, and then below that, basically, how far back in the logs do you want the system to look for their tomfoolery, I guess. And this is quite a while in seconds. So it's going to go back and look this far back. If they screw up more than twice, they will be banned permanently. That's basically what all of this here says. So we can just do, Control O and an Enter and a Control X, and then we're ready to go for that file. That file's done. Now we can move on to some other stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back a directory, and then we're going to cd into filter.d, and then we're going to create another npm-docker file. This time it will be a configuration file. So let's do an ls. Okay, there's nothing there, so we'll do nano npm-docker.conf, and we'll hit enter. Now, when I mentioned that I was making this video, I had somebody in the comments, at least one person, say, I'm curious about the regex for this. And honestly, so was I. I'm terrible with regex. I found a place online where somebody had kind of put this together, and this is what we're using. That resource will also be available in the description down below. But basically, what we're doing here is we're looking for primarily 404 errors. There's also we're looking for 400 errors, as well as 300 errors. However, if there are too many 400 errors, that's when we're going to take action. That's basically how I'm reading this. Again, I'm no good with regex, but that's kind of how I'm reading this. If you want to add more regex to this and secure things even more, you absolutely can. But this is kind of the default that we're going to go with, is just looking for and blocking people who get too many 404 errors on your system. So once we've got this, again, we can do Control O and Enter and Control X. And then there's one more file that we need to create, and that is our Cloudflare API v4, the file that we called earlier, that actions file. So what we're going to do is we're going to cd, we're going to go back a directory, and we're going to cd into actions.d. And again, there's nothing in here. So we're going to create that file. So again, we're going to do a nano. I like to use nano. You can use whatever you want to use for your editor. And I'm just going to edit this, or create this Cloudflare-API v4.conf file. So what we're doing with this actions file here is creating a communications path between Fail2Ban and Cloudflare. So basically that they can work together and make sure that things are being banned the way they're supposed to be banned, and that they can communicate back and forth. So really the only thing that you need to worry about is at the very end of the file here, and that is where it says CF user. Right now it says email@gmail.com. That will be your Cloudflare email address. You'll go ahead and put that in, and then below that, you're going to have a CF token that you'll also need to replace with your Cloudflare token. So let's take a look at that just real quick here. If we come up to the top right and go to my profile, and then go over here to API tokens. And then what we're looking for right here is this global API key. We're going to click on view there. And then this is the API key that you're going to put in to your SSH here. Of course, I've got that blurred. You won't see it there. But basically, that's going to go right here. Once you've got that done, you can press Control O and enter in Control X. And then we can move on to the last actual step here. So let's go ahead and clear our screen here. What we want to do next is actually do a cd slash, or a cd space slash to go back to the very root of everything. And what we want to do here is actually look for our nginx.conf file. So we're going to do a couple of things here. First thing we're going to do is do a find space dot dash name nginx.conf. And basically what we're going to get here is a bunch of overlays that don't really tell us much of anything. So we're just going to use this as reference for the moment. So the next thing we want to do is actually figure out which overlay is associated with which Docker container, because each one of these varlib docker overlay 2 is associated with a container on our server. So what we're going to do is actually do a search, basically run a command that will kind of associate overlays with containers. So go ahead and paste that in there. And here we can see how each one of these is related. And what we're looking for right here is this npm_app_1. That is right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a cd into there. And if we take a look, what I like to do is actually just kind of look at the last 4 or 5 characters of that. So C48C1. And then we can kind of look right here. So we know it's this one right here. But we also know it's the merged. So this is the file that we want to edit here. So that didn't work. So let's do cd etc /nginx like so. And then we can do a nano nginx.conf like so. Okay. What we want to do next is actually scroll down until we find right here where it says real IP determination. What we're going to do is actually come down here, first thing where it says real IP header, and then X real IP. We're going to go over here and we're just going to comment that out. Leaving that in there caused me some issues. We're just going to comment that out for right now. And we're going to then copy this over here. We're going to come back up. I like to put it right basically right here. The formatting doesn't really matter, but oh, hey, it worked. So basically what we're doing here is we're setting real IPs from, these are all Cloudflare IP addresses that we can actually find over here. And basically they've got all of their IPv4 and IPv6 addresses here. You can download these as text or take a look at these as a text format just to make things easier so you don't have to retype them and whatnot. But basically now we've got all of our Cloudflare IP addresses. Basically what we're doing is saying, hey, ignore the Cloudflare IP address. We want to know the real IP address of that visitor, because if we don't do this step, it will just try to ban Cloudflare IP addresses, and that just doesn't work real well. That's going to ban a lot of people that don't need to be banned. So, so now that we've got this, we can do Control O and Enter and Control X. Now, in theory, that's all we should have to do at this point. So what we want to do next is come back over here to Portainer. Let's take a look in here. Nothing here has really changed. So we're going to go ahead and restart this container now that we've got all of this done. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the logs. And here we can see that I've got a bunch of my IP address in there, and it's going back and rebanning all of these people. It's actually communicating with Cloudflare and pulling all of the previously banned IP addresses that I had set up. And it's kind of going through here and re-importing all of this stuff in real time. So if we scroll up, we can see all of these, or this one was already banned. Of course, that's my IP address. I'll have to be real careful about marking that out later. But here you can see all of the stuff that it has done to re-communicate with Nginx Proxy Manager to make sure that things are banned appropriately. And then again, if I come back over to here, here we can see that actually since then we've actually added, we were at 182 before, now we're at 183. So in the meantime, somebody else has done something stupid on my server and deserved to get banned. So it's a bit of a process to get Fail2Ban up and running to work with Nginx Proxy Manager and Cloudflare. So the original write-up that I saw was for Nginx Proxy Manager and Fail2Ban. I was able to then kind of go back and do some reverse engineering to add Cloudflare back into the mix so that we can get Cloudflare to work with our setup here and be even more effective in doing what it already does very, very well. So this has been one of those videos I've been wanting to make for a really, really long time. But unfortunately, I didn't have my brain wasn't wrapping around how this works and how to get everything to work together. So I'm actually pretty happy that this is working. Obviously, you know, we can see here that it is actually working. It is banning people appropriately. Of course, you can change some of those settings for, you know, how long do you want somebody to be banned? How many tries do you want to give them before they're banned? You know, how many tries in a given amount of time should they get before they're banned? There's a lot of different things that you can look up and modify there if you want to do that. Again, all of this will be documented in a web link in the description down below with additional resources to go out and find more information if you're curious about how to modify things, update things, what different things mean. All of that will be available, like I said, in a link in the description down below. So hopefully you guys found this video helpful. It really would mean a lot to me if you give this video a thumbs up. It's one of those things that's been asked for a long time, and I finally got it. Here we are. So hopefully you found the video helpful, if nothing else. I will have more videos coming up. I've got some more Casa OS videos coming up. All kinds of good stuff coming, so don't forget to get subscribed if you're interested in more content like this. Also, if you want to support the channel and get early access to some of my content, that is available over on Patreon. There's a link, of course, for that in the description down below as well if you want to support the channel that way. But I think with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So as always, thanks for your time. I always appreciate your support, and I'll talk to you in the next video.